Hello and welcome to your Astro Tarot forecast for the week of April 7th through the 13th. It's a very big week. It's not a lot of astrology throughout the week, but very concentrated things happening, and we've got some doozies of a card. Hello, if you're new here, I'm Michelle. I've been working as a coach, a tarot reader, an intuitive for a decade now, and I do these weekly readings on Substack, which are now available to everyone all the time for free. There's no more paywall. The reason I'm able to take down the paywall is I'm doing a new thing at the end of the forecast. I pull a name at random every week from my supporters. So anyone that is a paid subscriber on Substack for only $5 a month, or anyone that chooses to tip their reader throughout the week. So you could contribute as little as $1 on the links that I'll have below, or that are always available on the quick links in my Instagram profile. And if you do any of those things throughout the week, you get your name in the pot. And I either use an online generator to randomly select a name, or once I have enough to kind of have a cohesive little jar, I'll pull them out. But right now it's a smaller pool, so it's a good time to contribute $1 this week and have a really good odd of getting a personalized tarot card reading at the end of next week's forecast. So that's how these readings work. We start with the astrology and tarot cards for the every day of the week and the upcoming week. And then this week we're going to move into our extended reading, which will be a personalized reading for the person that I drew. However, I am a firm believer that you end up at the reading that you are supposed to. So even if the personalized reading isn't for you, and if you feel called to just stick around, there could be information there for you. So just like if you watch a general reading like this online, things resonate, even though it's not directed directly to you. You can also watch the personal reading at the end, and there might be some stuff that resonates for you there as well, because a lot of times we gravitate towards similar readers that have a similar vibe. Everyone that ends up in this collective ends up being kind of on a sort of similar path, even though we're all individuals. So yeah, stick around if you feel called to do so. Trust your intuition. So we're going to dive in to our astrology for the week. And we're starting with big celebration because on Monday, Mercury goes direct. So if you've been having trouble with your communication, your transportation, your technology, if you've been waiting to sign any contracts or make any big discussions happening, Monday is when the green light turns on again. Yes, we will be in a shadow period for about a week and a half, but things are easier in that area of your life. That being said, we do have a lot of stuff happening this week, so just be wary of speaking before you feel ready to be heard, or before you feel clear about what it is that you want to say. Funny that I just had a problem with that very thing just now. So yeah, not speaking until you're really certain of your truth. Because just because Mercury is direct doesn't mean that your internal dialogue has been ironed out. We always have to have a little bit of contemplation, a little bit of realization of ourselves before we can communicate with the outside world in a way that feels clear. I'm also getting a lot of throat chakra stuff happening, even just now talking about Mercury going direct, and a little bit of third eye stuff. So if you're not familiar, I'm an empathic healer. I do a lot of energy healing, and when I read individuals' energies and read into the collective, I feel things in my body. So with me feeling a little bit of harshness in my throat, a little bit of fogginess in my third eye, that's telling me that even though Mercury is going direct on Monday, we're still finding our voice. And we're doing that by trying to declutter our third eye, our intuition. I'm getting strong hits recently in my own personal life that we really do need to do like a technology cleanse. I know I'm feeling better when I put down my phone and put away the screens for a little bit. And I think that that's kind of a sign of the collective energy as well. And there's a lot going on this week. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot shifting in our personal lives and in our global lives. And we need to carve out the time to take a break to tune back into our own energy. Because even when you're trying to rally and connect and do things for the greater good, in order to get drawn to the right avenues, the right actions that you're supposed to take to fulfill whatever your personal role is in the revolution, you have to be able to listen to your intuition. You have to disconnect from what everyone else is telling you to do and tap into what you feel in your heart, your being, your soul, your gut, your third eye that you are supposed to do. So I am getting a little bit of a feeling that on Monday, even with Mercury Direct, we might want to kind of step back from technology a little bit. It'd be a really good day to meet with someone that you feel really close with and in a face-to-face situation and have just a cup of tea. I'm going to take a sip of my own tea and talk things out in a way that feels more grounded and in a way that feels like you have the ability to speak your truth. Or a therapy session would be good for Monday as well. But getting together with someone that you trust outside of online technology as best you can. Some of us, I know myself, some of my nearest and dearest are further away in the country, so FaceTimes are usually I have to do that. But there is a feeling of like, get away from the noise of headlines and opinions on social media and just kind of connect with someone that you feel like you can air your opinions, your thoughts, your worries, your concerns, and kind of hash out what it is that you really feel about certain situations. That also could just be spending the day with yourself or your pets. It doesn't have to be spending the day with another individual. If you don't have someone in your life that really aligns with your energy in a way that you feel like you can be yourself, I feel you, I get you, I'm sending you love. It could just be a day to be solo and do some journaling to figure out how you feel about the state of the world and what you want to do to move things forward. So again, Mercury's going direct. Hooray, let's celebrate. But maybe don't run right out and tell everyone your opinions and what you've been thinking for the past 3 weeks, because you might not be clear on that yet. On Monday also, we have Venus conjunct Saturn. So this is another thing that's really important, especially if the things that you're wanting to communicate during this Mercury direct time period have to do with your intimate relationships. Because Venus conjunct Saturn indicates that we are still integrating and learning lessons around love and relationships and what we want in those things. And Saturn tends to be a really... It's a very important energy in our life, but it's a very harsh tutor or like a very harsh teacher of some kind. I always get the visual with Saturn of sort of like the cliche of like a Catholic school nun with a ruler in her hand being very stern and very strict about your studies. And Saturn is about the study of life and what we're learning here on this planet in this lifetime and our life lessons. And Venus is love, relationships, and sometimes creativity and art. So there could be that as well. But I feel like a lot of things that are going to be moving around on Monday are about our love and relationships. So even if we are going into sort of lessons around creativity or reevaluating our creativity, it's going to be to express things about love, whether it be romantic love, platonic love, familiar love. It doesn't feel heavy. That's not the right word that I want to say, but it feels like we really are doing a little bit of a love life review on Monday. And maybe that's in preparation for whatever it is that we want to communicate with Mercury Direct. But that also is why it might not be the day to make that communication happen, because you're still integrating and evaluating the lessons that you've learned. I'm getting for someone, I said I was going to take a sip of tea and I never did. For someone listening, there's a new situation in regards to your interpersonal relationships that might be coming about that you're kind of excited now that Mercury's direct to pursue. And you're reevaluating these past relationship lessons to be able to pull out expectations that you have of this new situation that are influenced by past traumas or baggage. We're kind of like, it feels like separating the wheat from the chaff is the phrase that's coming forward. It's like, what do we actually need to bring forward as far as our lessons go, and what is just kind of a sign of things that we need to heal? Because that's honestly what we're doing in this life, interacting with other human beings. We're constantly trying to figure out like, okay, what of this past thing that didn't work out is a valuable lesson that I can take forward and have better boundaries in the next situation or higher expectations for myself? And what is just kind of stuff that I feel hurt about that doesn't actually have to be brought into the future? There's a lot of self-love and self-worth happening around the lessons that we're integrating on Monday. So until you get to a place where you feel like you really are in a cozy self-love and self-worth, like you feel like your self-worth is at a higher level because of the lessons that you've learned, you want to hold off on the communication or the invitation to someone to start something new. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. We also have that Echet in our cards because our card for Monday is the Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups can sometimes be a bit of a Delulu card, but it also is a really great card for daydreaming about the best possible scenario of a situation and also recognizing that you have lots of options in front of you. So even if you think there's just like one particular person that you've got your eyes set on, the Seven of Cups is a reminder that actually the world is your oyster. And you have tons of options, people that you haven't met yet, people that could align to your energy better than you ever thought. I think a lot of times, especially if it's a romantic issue or partnership that we're looking at, we have a tendency to feel like there's no one out there. Like I don't particularly share this mindset, but we can get really caught up with specific individuals when we think we found someone that's a good match. But ultimately, if things don't feel like they're flowing and moving forward in that area, they're not as good of a match as you think they are. And somewhere out there, the universe is waiting for you to be moving forward towards another person that's a better match. So Seven of Cups is basically just telling us to like keep our options open and in a very optimistic way. Like keep your options open in a way that feels really optimistic and daydreamy and like not in a delusional daydreamy way, but in a way that it's like, no, yeah, I have such a high value for my own self-worth that I trust that I can do better than what's in front of me or what's been in front of me in the past. And now I can like recognize my worth and elevate my expectations and my daydreams for the future in regards to relationships to how much I value myself. And the great thing about doing it from a place of self-worth is that when you value yourself that deeply, if someone else doesn't show up and value you in the same way, it's easy to move on. It's only when we're expecting someone else to mirror back to us the worth that we don't see in ourselves quite yet that it becomes hard to move on from rejection. But if you value yourself to the point that it doesn't matter what the rest of the world thinks, you're just waiting for someone to show up that like mirrors back to you what you already know to be true about yourself. This is already such a therapy style reading, so I hope that this is for someone out there. This is definitely something that as a whole, as a culture, we are integrating, recognizing that having self-worth doesn't necessarily mean that the world outside of you is going to automatically respond to it. It means that you can now be more discerning about who you let in your circle based on how much worth they're giving to you. That's what boundaries are. It's not about trying to get the other person to do something that they're not doing. It's about recognizing that if they're not capable of doing what you feel you're worth, then maybe you don't need to spend as much time with that person and you can find someone else that does echo back to you your worth. Whew. All right, at that we're gonna pour some more tea because that felt like we need a little comfort. So I hope that you're having a warm cup of tea or something that makes you feel comforted. At the very least, drink some water during these readings because there is a lot of energy that's moving around. And with that, we'll move on to Tuesday because we've just been talking about Monday. So when we move into Tuesday, we have Mars trine the North Node. So trines are a lucky little support system. However, I do get the feeling with this being Mars in the North Node, Mars still feels a little volatile. It definitely feels like there's a feeling of like a lot of emotions coming up and a little bit of combativeness happening. And part of that is because we are still Mars in Cancer, whereas when it's not as comfortable energy. And there are a lot of emotions that come up with Mars in Cancer, but there's a feeling of needing to be prepared for conflict on Tuesday, quite frankly. And I do get the feeling that this could be playing out more on the global stage, but this also is the macro is always reflecting the micro and vice versa. So if you're seeing something happening in the news that feels like it's a lot of conflict happening, you can ask yourself how that's showing up in your interpersonal relationships. And if you're seeing something you don't like in political figures or the world outside of you, recognize where those things live within you on a lesser scale. I guarantee they're there, even though you don't want to think that you can relate to people that you dislike in the world around you. The reason you dislike them is you're seeing a little bit of yourself there that you want to heal. With that in mind, our card for Tuesday is the Justice card reversed. So there is a feeling of Tuesday being about fighting for what you think is right and what you believe in so that we can turn any injustices in our lives right side up. And again, this could be more political, more social activism, but it's also within your interpersonal relationships as well. So I think that the evaluation of our own self-worth on Monday is spilling over into Tuesday. And then that's how we're finding like the alignment with fighting for what we believe and what we think is right, whether it be within our connections or within the global stage of things. I told you this week has got a lot, and we haven't even hit the end of the week where all the other astrology is happening. In the meantime, our next card, our next day is also a major arcana. So Justice card was major arcana. That means there's a lot of fate at play. When we move into Wednesday, we have quiet astrology, but the Tower card. And the Tower card indicates that something in our life was not working and it's being torn down to the foundation so that we can rebuild. Sometimes you're in control. Perhaps you recognize that some relationships, some situations in your life are not aligning with your self-worth, and you decide on Wednesday, hey, I'm going to clear the slate with these and I'm going to find something new and I'm going to rebuild. If you do need to distance yourself from anyone in your life that's not aligning with your worth, not showing up for you in that way, we don't have to make it dramatic, guys. I feel like a lot of times these days we have this whole like, you're not valuing me. And you almost feel like you have to tell the person off. And that's not the way it has to be. Like maybe that's my Cancer, let's love everybody, like aversion to conflict. But like honestly, you can value your self-worth and recognize someone else is not mirroring that back to you and not feel like you need to tell them off about it. Like sometimes it's so much more better, so much simpler and better for your own peace of mind to just be like, okay, I'm going to stop with the effort here. And most of the time, if someone's not valuing your worth, they're probably not valuing your time. They're probably not the ones that are pursuing the situation as much. At least that's my experience. My experience is when people in my life have not been valuing my worth or seeing my worth, I'm usually the one that's trying to pursue a connection. And then I kind of have to like recognize that it's not coming back to me, and I have to stop myself and be like, okay, why am I still chasing this? So if you've been chasing something, a relationship, a circumstance, a life goal, whatever in your life, a job, on Wednesday, and you find out that if you have this realization, this epiphany that it's not aligning with your worth, that they're not showing up for you in the same way that you're showing up for them, you don't have to tell them that. You can just stop wasting your energy. And then that way you're saving more energy for building something new with someone that does value your worth or a situation that does see your worth. So that is the Tower card on Wednesday. It's a very brief description for something that's a very big energy, but it goes along well with our Saturn energy happening throughout the week as well. Moving into Thursday. Again, the astrology is kind of quiet, but we have another major arcana card. And this one is the World, which means that we're completing a cycle. So this is like crash course life lesson week. Like we're evaluating our life lessons on Monday. We're realigning our values on Tuesday. We're tearing something down that didn't align with our values on Wednesday. And then we're just completely closing out that chapter of our life and moving forward on Thursday. So big movement ahead, which makes sense because we just came out of our eclipse portal last month. Like we are making moves this month. Like last month was about kind of cleansing, catharsis, like figuring out what wasn't working, and we are ready to move forward in April. So that's what this week is telling us to do. Like move forward, take action. Like don't just make these realizations that people aren't showing up for you or that you deserve better. Like make a move towards what values you, and also value yourself enough to take those actions to move forward, to not just wait around for something to happen. That's what's happening this week. So the World card is, again, closing out a chapter, but it's closing out a chapter in a great way. It's about celebrating the end of a chapter. So even if you are like ending a relationship or letting go of a relationship you thought was going to be a thing that ended up not being a thing, celebrate the fact that you value yourself enough now to be able to close those doors, to walk away from things that aren't mirroring back to you your own self-worth. That's the celebration. It's not so much celebrating, oh, that thing didn't work out, although sometimes that is the case if you were in a really toxic situation. But a lot of times it's celebrating our internal growth and the fact that we now know what we want and what we deserve, and we're moving towards that and away from things that don't serve that. So moving into Friday, again, still relatively quiet astrology. Our card of Friday is the Five of Pentacles. So this is softly telling me that this could be the day that we start to see a payoff already from walking away from the things that aren't seeing our worth and aren't valuing us. So if you were walking away from a job situation that didn't value your worth, you could find that as soon as Friday, some financial stress gets flipped on its head, because the Five of Pentacles upright is a little bit of financial stress. But when we have it in reverse, it's actually kind of a little more positive, because it means that that financial stress is starting to come to an end. Now, this doesn't feel like it's going to be like you win the lottery or like you get like $1 million job on Friday. Like you don't leave your job on Thursday and then get the best job ever on Friday. That's not quite what this is. This is like the little whispers, the little trickles. Like if you have a side hustle, it might start bringing in a little extra money to support you after walking away from a situation that wasn't. Maybe it's not even that the money comes in, but the ideas for money making start to come in. The inspiration to apply for that job, to pitch that story, to do whatever it is that you need to do to start the income flowing in could start happening on Friday. So Friday's a really good day to be like, cool, I know my worth. I value my worth. What can I do to take action that aligns with that worth, to call in more financial abundance and support in your life? Pentacles can also be sort of like grounding support around you. So if you are sort of like cleansing friend circles and things like that, that aren't aligning with your values, this could be inspiration to kind of sign up for a class or go hang out in a new location or do something that's going to potentially draw in more grounded social support into your life as well. So good things. Hard transitions this week, but really good things coming from having the courage to take those transitions. Moving into Saturday, I gotta drink more tea. Saturday's our big day of the week. There's a lot going on Saturday, but again, it's good stuff. It just feels really uncomfortable sometimes. The first thing that we have going on Saturday is there's a Chiron Cazimi. So Chiron, the wounded healer asteroid, is aligning with the sun. That means it's intensifying our awareness of our wounds and what we need to heal. That's very early on in the day on Saturday. I'm going to pick this up so I don't have to keep squinting. It's earlier on in the day on Saturday. It's 10:59, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time in America. So you can do the translations for you. So it's not super early in the day, but Saturday morning-ish. For most of us, you'll be feeling some energy moving into that wounded healer sector of your life. Again, not always comfortable, but important and valuable and getting you to the next level of things when you recognize the wounds that you haven't healed yet. We also have a Libra full moon. So Libra is about balance and about making sure that our interpersonal relationships have a sense of balance to them. So again, we recognized our value, we owned our worth, we started editing out people and relationships and situations that weren't echoing back to us, and then Libra is bringing in an opportunity to balance those things out. Libra also can be really good for romantic relationship energy. It is the sign in the house of partnerships, like it aligns with that. So Saturday could be a day that you're healing some wounds and then possibly calling in a partner, or at the very least recognizing the energy is getting more ready for partnership by healing those wounds. We also have Venus going direct. So this is a good time. Okay, first of all, Venus direct. I'm so excited for Venus direct because I desperately need to give myself a haircut. And I've been waiting until Venus goes direct. So that will be what I'm doing next weekend or this weekend. And then it's also a sign that you can start to move things forward in your relationships without feeling too trepidatious of what Venus is making you feel sort of like in the dark about. Because Venus retrograde is always kind of like a rose-colored glasses when it comes to our love and relationship situations. So it can be that things that come in during Venus retrograde appear better than they actually are. Like if an ex comes back, it might sound like a good idea to get back together with them. Or if you get into a really great new relationship, it might sound like a great idea to go elope. Don't do those things during Venus retrograde. Hopefully you didn't. Hopefully you've been listening and you knew not to do those things. But with Venus going direct, you can start to evaluate what's happened over the past several weeks with Venus retrograde and see how you want to proceed. So if something new did come into your life during Venus retrograde, you now can start to have a little more clarity of like, okay, maybe this is a worthy suitor, or, oh God, thank goodness I didn't elope with that person because their cracks are starting to show. Again, a lot of energy. To summarize it a little bit though, we're talking about healing wounds and preparing ourselves for a healthier interpersonal connection. It is a full moon in Libra, and I do believe, if I remember correctly, that the new moon in Libra 6 months ago was an eclipse. So hopefully you didn't do any major relationship manifesting underneath the eclipse energy back on the Libra new moon, because doing manifestation in an eclipse draws in kind of funky stuff that's kind of off center of what we actually wanted. But if you did and you called in something kind of funky, this Libra full moon might bring some realizations about that of like, maybe I shouldn't have tried to manifest a partner in an eclipse new moon. But yeah, you live and you learn. The card for Saturday is the Ten of Swords. So Ten of Swords is the absolute end of something. So we had the World card earlier, just a couple days ago, and it was like a celebratory, like closing of a chapter. Ten of Swords is like, something's dead, it's done, it's gone, it's buried, let's walk away. Like, stop beating a dead horse is Ten of Swords energy. So I do get the feeling that for some of us, we are going to have a realization that a relationship that we kept trying to make work, maybe for the past 6 months since the Libra new moon, is not actually working. Or it could be that you're just done putting up with people that don't value your worth. Like, this could be done with your own actions. It doesn't necessarily have to be closing out a chapter with a situation. So it could actually feel pretty relieving, because Ten of Swords can be a bit of a relief, even though it feels like it looks super scary and it is kind of a rock bottom energy. The thing that I always like to say about the Ten of Swords is that when you hit rock bottom, you have a firm base to push yourself back up. So if you think of like getting to the bottom of the swimming pool, like you can now get to the surface so much quicker because you hit rock bottom. So think of that energy under this Chiron Cazimi, Libra new moon, Venus direct on Saturday. These are all happening so that we can hit rock bottom and have a firm surface, a firm foundation to push back up. So actually kind of similar to the Tower card as well, like leveling it down to the foundation so you can rebuild. So I think that's what's coming up in the early morning or the later morning hours with the Chiron Cazimi, is we are like hitting our rock bottom emotionally with our wounds. But because of that, we're like, oh, well, now I see what rock bottom feels like. I've looked at my wounds. I've examined the bottom of the ocean floor. I know what's down there. And now I can come back up to the surface and feel more ready and clearer in calling in a relationship that better aligns with me, and also not messing it up with my woundedness that I hadn't examined, because now I've looked at it. Now I've examined it. I know what's there, and I'm not going to put that on my partner. I'm not going to put my wounds on my partner. I'm going to expect them to show up and be like recognizing my worth. But when I don't recognize my worth, they don't necessarily need to build me back up. That is still my job, to examine those wounds, to examine what needs to be healed. So again, that kind of echoes back to something that I said on Monday. If you want to go back and listen to that on Saturday as well, those two feel like they're probably going to go together. Okay, Sunday. We're going to end on a high note, because Sunday we had several cards fall out of the deck. We have something happening in the astrology, but I gotta be honest, guys. I use a specific site. It's called Astro for all of my astrology like dates and times. And it has never failed me, but I'm having like a weirdness around what I have from that website for Sunday, because a lot of other places online have it happening later on in the month. And I don't quite know what's happening there. I don't know who's wrong. So I'm going to tell you what I have written for Saturday or for Sunday, but know that it might actually be happening like closer to the 21st rather than the 13th, depending on whose calculations are right. I don't know how to do the math for the charting. I just rely on the calculators online. So when the calculators are off, I'm not quite sure what to do. And I'm going to continue to look into this issue to make sure that my website I'm using isn't consistently inaccurate. I've never had a problem with it before. But I also believe that everything happens for a reason. So even if this is incorrect on the calculator, someone watching this needs a message that I'm about to say for what I think is going to happen in the astrology on Sunday. So what I have for the astrology on Sunday is Saturn conjunct the North Node. Again, some sites say that it happens on the 21st. So if you want to put it in your back pocket and save it for then, feel free. But I feel like someone needs to hear something about this right now, because Saturn conjunct the North Node is, again, coming back to that energy of lessons. Saturn is our stern schoolmarm with the ruler in her hand, ready to strike our knuckles when we get something wrong. The North Node is our purpose in life, the karma that we're working through, the direction that we're headed, and the lessons that we're learning. So we got like multiple lessons coming on Sunday. So what I'm getting for this energy is that after all this work that we're doing on our self-worth, of letting go of things that aren't serving us or echoing back that self-worth, of calling in and daydreaming about the things that we want, of having like rock bottom with our healing so we can push back up to the surface, I think Saturday or Sunday is coming in. I keep saying Saturday. There's something to that as well. Sunday is coming in with a alignment of the lessons making sense with our purpose in life. Does that resonate for someone? There's a feeling of like whatever lessons that we've learned line up with sort of a point that we're driving towards. Could be with your career, could be with just a bigger life goal, but like we all have, and we talked about last week, what's your mission statement? So if you didn't watch last week's reading, maybe you go back and watch that, but what is your mission statement in life? What are you here to do? And it can transform throughout your life. It doesn't have to stay the same. You don't have to feel so dedicated that you got to stick to it. But right now, what is your mission statement on the grander scheme of things? Because I think something's happening with that on Sunday, where you realize that the lessons that you've learned and that you've started really integrating and evaluating over the past week are driving you towards an action of your mission statement. And again, it could happen on Sunday. It could happen on the 21st. But I'm supposed to say it here and now. With that in mind, our cards have a beautiful little gift for us, because with that energy, we had the King of Wands with the Queen of Wands and the Three of Pentacles, and they all came out at once. So this is crazy that this partnership came out together. So again, I always like to start with the inward connection, the inward relationships. This is a sign that on Sunday, we're integrating something within ourselves that's a spiritual union of our lunar and solar, our divine feminine and our divine masculine. And that could potentially call in a really spiritually aligned exterior partnership, be it romantic, platonic, business, what have you. But before you get disappointed that someone doesn't like come knocking down your door on Sunday, the first thing that we're doing is integrating within ourselves. If you don't feel like you've integrated these like two spiritual sides of yourself on Sunday, that's what you're working on. If you feel like you're like, cool, I've got those things integrated. First of all, if you do have those things integrated, you could care less if someone's knocking down your door because you feel complete within yourself. But you might get a little bonus of someone knocking on your door, metaphorically, and coming in with a really spiritually aligned offer. And it could potentially benefit your financial abundance. So it could be that it's a business partnership. It could be that it's a love relationship that's just so supportive and so mirroring back to you your own self-worth that like that becomes intensified and the world can't help but see your worth and pay you for it. But the Three of Pentacles is like a support system bolstering you up the mountain as you climb towards your financial and earthly material stability goals. So either your inner partnership gives you the courage and the boost to do that, or because you have that inner partnership, you also call in an exterior partnership that boosts you up as well. So it could potentially be a really rewarding week if you're willing to do the work and be brave enough to walk away from the things that aren't serving you. But also, again, brave enough to walk away from the things that aren't serving you and also evaluate where you need to heal. Like you can't just get pissed off that the world's not giving you what you want and not looking at the shadow parts of things that need to still be healed and integrated and loved from within. I don't know how to turn these things off. So my computer gives us a thumbs up for that message. That is our week. I am sending you so much love. And actually, I wasn't planning to do this, but I do want to give like a little moment to just like integrate that energy. So we're not in a full visualization, but just take a second to find a nice upright spine. I want you palms down on your body. I feel like we need to really connect to our own energy for this. And take a deep breath in. Open mouth, exhale. And just let yourself breathe normally for a moment. Let your shoulders drop, let your jaw relax. Turn your closed-eyed gaze up to that third eye point between your brows. Imagine almost like you're taking like a little like squeegee or sponge or something and clearing off the little like glass window on your third eye. I feel like some of us need a little squeegeeing of the third eye so that it feels a little clearer. And know that whatever's coming up this week, you can trust your intuition to drive you forward. I also want you to take a moment to check in with your solar plexus. Maybe you actually place your hands on your upper abdomen. This is where your confidence center resides, and this is where we're going to get that sense of self-worth. So take a second to just place your hands on your upper abdomen, beneath the ribs, above the navel. Take a deep breath into that space. Allow it to feel like it's glowing brighter, like a little golden sun. And exhale anything out that's clouding that area. One more deep breath in. Glow that sun a little brighter. Exhale out the clouds. When you're ready, go ahead and blink your eyes open. Again, we're going to move into our personal reading for our winner of the week. I haven't even announced the winner of the week. So I only had 4 names that I was drawing from. So again, this is a good time to be calling in with your tips, your memberships, and letting it be something that you are, showing support for this channel, but also potentially winning a reading, because there's fewer people in this drawing, and it's likely that for the next couple weeks, I'll probably have a couple names come up multiple times until we get a lot of people in the pot. But it was so lovely because my first one is actually my real life bestie because she is a blog supporter and I love her for it. So Holly, this is your reading, but if you are not Holly and you feel called to stick around, that probably is a sign that there's a message here for you, that you're going through something similar, or that you can translate the message into something similar for your own energy. So I actually believe I have a text from her that might be about what she wants to focus on. So let's see. Yeah, so we're talking about social energy battery to kind of summarize without getting into deep to what she's texting me. So let's see how we can support, or what we need clarity around for Holly's social battery, and how to kind of let that energy be used to her advantage, and whether she needs to take a break from social, whether she needs to reevaluate the social circle, whether she needs to set up some boundaries. I think Saturn definitely wants some boundaries, and we got a couple cards falling out, so I got to duck underneath the desk. Okay, first card makes total sense. 2 of Pentacles, which is about balance. Now, this is about being able to juggle a couple things at once, being able to juggle home and work, being able to juggle solo time and social time. So again, that really resonates for what we're talking about here. Our card on top of it is the 6 of Swords, which is moving away from stressful situations. So I do think that there is an energy for Holly and for anyone else that wants to be listening to this reading of recognizing that you're allowed to walk away from situations that are stressing you out, that are not aligning with your energy at that time. And it doesn't have to be a permanent walking away. It can be something that you're just, giving yourself the space and stepping away from a group chat, stepping away from social media. We talked about that earlier in the week with the reading. Stepping away from because sometimes it's simple as just moving away from the situation physically for a while so that you can come back to it. So give yourself a break and let yourself move forward. And also the 6 of Swords is really kind of like a moving forward in like the grander scheme of things, and that you're moving into like kind of another chapter of the life. I think that definitely works as far as moving into different types of social circles, as mentioned. Let's see. For underneath the root cause, we have the Knight of Swords. So this could indicate that there's been a little too much movement, a little too fast paced. Like there is an energy of wanting to slow down in regards to this. The root cause that's been draining the energy is kind of just diving into social situations without kind of evaluating if they're really aligning for you or if it's really what you want in the moment. So there is an energy of wanting to take a little bit of a pause before you say yes to anything. On top of the energy is the Four of Cups in reverse position. So it is an indicator of like kind of flipping your perspective on like what's working. There's a feeling of like your intuition is telling you to do a certain thing, but you're feeling like you're being too old or too antisocial or too whatever. So there's definitely a feeling of like flipping your perspective on anything that you're kind of judging about, any breaks that you need to take socially. And then in the recent past, we have the Justice card. Lots of energy of balance coming in, which also makes sense for the astrology of this person. But the Justice card is telling us that in the recent past, there's almost an energy of socializing, not so much because you want to, but because you feel like it's creating a balance for everyone else around you. Of like, oh, I spent time with this person for a while, so now I need to spend time with this person. Or I spent X amount of hours by myself, so now I need to spend X amount of hours with someone. And there's kind of a message here that's like, it's not a mathematical equation. It doesn't have to be equal all the time in order for it to balance out. It's about you feeling into the energy of the moment and trusting what your energy is telling you rather than kind of keeping score. That's the message that I'm getting. Like, don't keep score. The Five of Cups reverse, we got a lot of cups reverse coming through here, is the Future card. So again, this is a shift in perspective. I often see the Five of Cups and the Four of Cups as a very similar message. If you see in the Four of Cups, we've got an energy of like this person's looking at these three cups that they don't actually want, and they're kind of missing the fact that there's a fourth cup here that is exactly what they're looking for. Whereas in the Five of Cups, it's more like a disappointment energy where like these cups have been spilt over. So maybe they did want them, but they've been spilt. And then there are two cups behind them that they don't recognize they were there. So both of these are an energy of like, there's a silver lining that you're not recognizing. And I feel like that's in regards to social situations. Again, I feel like there's something that you're judging about yourself and your ability to socialize. And there's a flip perspective to that. Of like, oh, that actually is beneficial, that I can go ahead and spend time alone. So I'm going to read this. I hope that she's okay with me reading this. I've recently been drawn to literal old lady stuff. Like I've hung out with 70-year-olds twice in the past week. And I feel like that's kind of an element that's wanting to come through here in that like, I feel like maybe there's a cultural mindset of like judging the old lady stuff. And like, this is like, no, go for the old lady stuff. There's a silver lining that's trying to come through here. So like, again, whatever you're being drawn to, that's like, don't judge it. Like, let it be a beautiful thing. I think it's so valuable. This is a tangent that I hope someone else is listening for because I feel like the message I want to get out in the world. We need to have older role models and to recognize how freaking cool, like especially older women, because like that's culturally we tend to kind of like disregard older women after a certain age, but like I have like a Pinterest board that I've started cultivating that's just like numbers be damned is what I've titled it. That's dedicated to women that are older than me that I just think are so freaking cool, that are living the kind of life that I want to live, not just in my future, but now. So I think it's really important for us to kind of like as a culture, as a society, shift our perspective around like what's appropriate or cool or like what's the better social connection. Like I think, yes, go hang out with 70-year-olds. We all need to hang out with more 70-year-olds. So that's kind of what's happening with these cup cards in reverse is like flip your perspective on like what might have been something that society would judge and let it be really freaking cool. So your energy is coming in with the Queen of Swords. So you have the ability to create proper social boundaries in your life. And I think you're probably already working on that because the Queen of Swords is an energy of like knowing when to pull up the drawbridge. So I think honestly, everything that I'm saying is probably not new information. It's intensifying stuff that you already know about yourself and that you're already working on. So that's bravo, because Queen of Swords is a hard energy to embody, and it's about like recognizing when you need to put yourself first, self-care, recognizing when energies outside of you aren't serving you, and like having no qualms about pulling up that drawbridge and not letting them have access to you for at least the time being. The outside world is coming in with the High Priestess. So I almost feel like this, especially with like like hanging out with like older people, there's like a wisdom to that. There's like an intuition that's coming forward. And honestly, I think that it's going to help you be more in touch with your own intuition as well. Especially these people, like I'm getting a feeling like almost like this cozy feeling of like not being as into technology and like just being more analog is kind of coming along with this hanging out with older people. That may or may not be the case, but there's definitely a feeling of like a cleanse of like our modern energy to tap back into more like traditional intuition. Moving into hopes and fears, 10 of Pentacles, there's a feeling that like if you do create these boundaries and you start taking time for yourself, or you start doing like the social things that you want to do, it's going to kind of uproot your stable home life or situation that you've established for yourself. And this is just kind of telling us that that's just what the fear in the mind is. But the ultimate outcome is the Emperor. So I really feel like you're gonna feel like more in the seat of power as you really embrace your ability to trust your intuition, to follow what's pulling you socially, and to take breaks from the things that aren't working for you, whether it be the news cycle or certain social situations. I love this energy as the end of this card because it's a very powerful energy. It's very big picture energy. It's recognizing that by taking the time for yourself, you are creating more energy for when you are spending time with the people that you love and the people that you value. And again, this week's all about self-worth. So that's what this is talking about. Like, value yourself, value your needs, and the people around you will reflect back to you that value. The way that you're valuing your time and your energy and putting that forward in a way that feels good to you and aligned to you. And again, you can show up for the rest of the world when you're ready to, with better energy, with more presence. So I love that for you. Thank you for being a supporter. Again, if you want a chance to get your own personal reading next week, I'll have links below. You can either subscribe and become a paid subscriber, or you can do a one-time donation of at least $1, and anything that happens throughout the week will be entered into next week's drawing. Have a beautiful, wonderful rest of your week, and enjoy the fact that you are in Mercury Direct territory, because back here where it's still retrograde, it's rough, but I survived.